What's going on, everybody? Ab the Audicrat here. This clip is from my full Reason 14 breakdown video that's now live on my channel. And in this section, I'll be talking about track folders and looped clips, some great additions with the update that helps speed up your workflow. If you're new to the channel, subscribe below, drop a comment, let me know what you think. Enjoy the video. Next up, we're going to talk about track folders, another interesting update that was long overdue. A lot of other DAWs do have this. This will help you basically just clean up your sequencer when you have a lot going on in your song. So in the rack now, I have a polytone, a monotone, and a few audio tracks. And if I want all of that to be in a folder, I can just click on the polytone, hold Shift, click all the way to the bottom track, and then hit Command, Shift, and T, and that's going to throw it right in a folder. If I undo that, I can also right-click that as I have everything selected and go to Track Folder, and then move selected tracks to New Folder, just like that. So this gets really interesting because let's say I wanted to draw some notes in the polytone. You can see here when I draw notes in the clip that it shows a line here. So whether or not I draw any notes actually for any device that I have highlighted, the folder will have its own clip right next to the folder icon on the left. And that basically tells me that within this folder, there is something going on this channel. So for the monotone, if I draw this here, you can also see this here. It corresponds to the folder clip above. Same thing here and here. Now, some cool things you can do. If you highlight this folder clip and let's say hit duplicate, the whole thing duplicates as you can see it here. Or let's say I just wanted to move this by holding Option. You'll also see a clip here where if you hold, it will drag as well. So let's say I wanted to mute that. I can mute this up top. It will mute anything underneath. Same thing over here. Everything will get muted. If I want to start making some cuts up top, it'll also cut to the corresponding clips within that folder. Now, if I mute an individual clip, it doesn't do anything to the top clip up here. But again, I could drag this whole section if I wanted to. Mute this whole section. Again, the shortcut to add tracks to a folder is Command-Shift-T on Mac, and I believe it's Control-Shift-T on Windows. Don't quote me on that. If you go to the track panel and then highlight the track folder, you can't add effects to this the same way you would for a bus, but this is really more for organizational and arrangement purposes. Another thing you can do with track folders is right-click on the main folder and go down to Track Color, and you can apply the same color to all the tracks in the folder, just like that. Let's say I have some more tracks that I want to make a subfolder for. I can highlight, let's say, the bottom 4 here, Command-Shift-T. Now they're in its own folder within the main folder, and you can go 3 deep with that. So let's say these 2 bottom audio tracks I want to highlight, create another folder, and now there's 3 folders within the main folder. If I still drag this top folder clip, it'll still move everything. Same thing with muting and cutting, slicing. Now, if I drag a folder clip from, in this case, track folder 3, and I move it over, you'll see that there are track folder clips for the second folder and the main folder that will follow, but any clip that's within the folder above it will not follow. So that's something to note as well. You'll always have the folder clip information above the one that you're moving, move with it, but not the clip info. So if I have something in a track on the first folder, something on a track in the second folder, and I'm just moving something on the second folder track, you'll see the 2 clips for folder 2 and 1, but not this clip that we'll go over. Now, for some people, this might not seem like a big part of the update. I think it's gonna help when you have a very big song with 20, 30, 40 tracks in the sequencer. It'll really help with, maybe muting a section really quick and not having to kind of highlight and then mute separately. Might not seem like much, but these things add up in the grand scheme of a song and can really save you time, especially if you want to just kind of drag and drop and duplicate. I haven't really utilized this too much yet. With the beta, it's a little limited in terms of, if you're adding a lot of tracks, it could be buggy and it's just not as fast as the main version. So once I get a full license of this, I'm really going to be diving deep into how I can kind of utilize this in my songs, and I think you will too. Next up, we're going to talk about loop clips. So I dragged over a rhythmic and did a quick drum beat. And you can see the clip looks a little different than it used to. It has a line up top. Now, when you hover over the end of a clip, you can extend the clip this way. And if you right click, you can go down to Edit Clip Name, and let's just call this drum beat. And if you hover on the top corner of the clip, it will also extend it like this, which is essentially looping the clip. So before we get too deep into that, I just wanted to double click there, go into the edit window and show a few new features here. So with the pencil tool now, when you go to add MIDI notes, you can also click on the MIDI note with the pencil tool to delete what you just did. And for the velocity of each MIDI note, you can control it using this little node by dragging it up and down. You used to have to go to the pencil tool to then draw it, which was a big pain. I hated doing that. You can also highlight a bunch and drag them together. And when you hover over a note now, there's a bracket which allows you to extend, either way. Now, a few things that are to note when it comes to looped clips. If I go into this first section and I want to move the clap. It will move the clap on both sections of the looped clip. So if I wanted to highlight, let's say all of that, and I move it up, it'll also move it up over here. It's going to undo that. Now, if I hover over the clip and hold Option, it will scale what I did with the MIDI notes in different ways. So let's say I did this. It's essentially speeding up what I did within the clip without changing the tempo. That's how I had it. And then if I scale it even more, we'll slow it down. If you look at the top here where it says loop length and loop offset, you can also do some interesting variations to where the basically the downbeat will be within any given clip. So you can have some fun with that as well. If you also right click anywhere within this loop clip and you go down to loop clips, you can convert this entire thing into one single clip. You can convert it all to separate clips, or you can go to duplicate loop instance. So what that does is give you exactly what you had in that section of the loop clip, but now on top of it, you can go in and make edits and it will only edit there. So you can really just drag this over here, let's say you want, and you still have your looped clip, but you have the ability to kind of drag something on top. So let's say you wanted to, add some sort of fill at the end here. So let's just say at the end of this, you wanted just to have hi-hats. But then you don't want it there. You can just drag it, drop it, duplicate it, and hover right over all these clips. So really neat feature if you want to mess around with different variations and, at the beginning or the end of any individual clip. And like I said, if you want to convert, let's just say this to its own, go down to loop clips, duplicate loop instance, double click, and then when you go in there, you're going to be editing just within this clip. Another cool feature of loop clips, I'm going to add an effect and drag and drop here. I'm going to drag and drop the Easy Fuzz setting from Scream 4. And if I bring it up in the rack, and let's say I wanted to mess around with the damage control, I can put a clip here to mess around with the automation of the damage control the way you normally could. Do something like this. And instead of duplicating, I can just drag just like this. And now I have... Where it really gets interesting is, let's say I go all the way to the end of this and I hold Option. I can stretch this in like I'm time stretching audio, and now it'll do something like this. So that's a little weird, but you can imagine how you can get really creative with this. You go all the way here. So even if I do this, let's say I go from within the clip, I can kind of stretch it that way into 16th notes. Not incredibly noticeable here, but you kind of get the idea. You can get really creative here. And of course, if you go in and edit in one clip, it'll edit in all the clips. And just like when I was doing this with the MIDI, let's say I wanted this to be a little bit different. If I go to loop clips, duplicate instance, I can make this one go a little wild. And then I can just highlight and duplicate like that. And you can do this with all different kinds of parameters on different types of devices and just have fun with it, see what you come up with. Now let's take an audio track. So let's go to samples and then miscellaneous samples. So if I take this sample and then I draw it out as a looped clip, if I double click and let's say I mess with any of the track markers to, stretch the audio, it'll stretch it not only here, but also here. You can also do the same thing by stretching like I did with the other clips, or if you hold in the middle, you can stretch this to bring just the beginning back like this to give, some pretty cool variations.